A cry in the dark. Instead, picture this. A man who's got the world in his pocket walks into a place he built from nothing, only to hear a sound that stops him cold, a stifled sob behind a locked door. What would you do? Stay quiet or step into the mess? We're in Nashville, Tennessee, at the Ember Grill, a cozy barbecue joint tucked on a bustling street near Music Row. It's the kind of place where the air smells of smoked brisket and hope, where neon signs hum and locals swap stories over sweet tea. 5 years ago, Tony Stark, yeah, that Tony Stark, the genius who traded Hollywood's red carpets for real life, poured his heart into this place, not with fancy architects or big-shot investors, but with his own sweat, picking every wood plank, every cook, every dreamer on his team. This wasn't just a restaurant, it was his promise to build something good, something that'd outlast the headlines. Tonight, it's a packed Saturday, the kind where waiters dance between tables with trays of ribs and cornbread, and live country music twangs through the chatter. Everything looks perfect. Warm lights, clinking glasses, folks laughing like they've known each other forever. But Tony's not here for the show. He slips in like a ghost, no flashy suit, just a worn leather jacket, jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low. No one clocks him. The hostess flashes a smile, points to the bar, but he just nods and keeps moving. He's not here to be seen. He's here to listen. Tony only does this a few times a year. No cameras, no entourage, just him stepping into his own house to see if it's still standing when the spotlight's off. But something's off tonight. Maybe it's the way the busboy's hands shake as he stacks plates. Maybe it's the forced grin on a waitress's face as she pours a refill. Or maybe it's just a gut feeling, the kind that's kept him alive through worse fights than this. He pauses by the jukebox, fingers grazing the glass, eyes scanning the room like he's reading a battlefield. Then he hears it, faint, muffled, coming from the back hall near the kitchen. Not a yell, not a crash, but a sound that cuts deeper. A woman crying. The kind of crying you try to hide, the kind that says you're holding on by a thread. Tony freezes. The music, the laughter, the clatter of forks, it all fades. His hand slips into his jacket pocket, brushing against a small, folded bandana, faded red with frayed edges. It's not just cloth. It's a memory, a piece of someone he couldn't save. His jaw tightens, and just like that, he's not just checking on his restaurant anymore. He's stepping into a fight. What do you think's behind that door? Ever heard a sound like that and known something's wrong? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious. Shadows on the wall. The hallway to the kitchen at the Ember Grill feels tighter than it should, like the walls are holding their breath. Tony Stark moves slow, each step quiet on the scuffed hardwood, his boots barely making a sound. The neon glow from the dining room fades behind him, replaced by the harsh buzz of a flickering bulb overhead. Framed photos of Nashville legends. Waylon, Dolly, Johnny line the walls, their smiles frozen in black and white. Tony hung those himself, but right now he's not seeing them. He's listening. The crying's clearer now, sharp gasps, like someone's fighting to keep it together but losing the battle. He stops outside a door marked staff only. It's cracked open just enough for a sliver of light to spill out, cold and white, nothing like the warm glow of the restaurant. Inside, a young woman leans against a metal table, her hands gripping the edge so hard her knuckles are white. Her name tag says Lila. She's maybe 20, her dark hair pulled back tight, but a few strands stick to her tear-streaked face. Her eyes are squeezed shut, like she's trying to disappear. Next to her, a guy in a server's apron, young, wiry, shifts nervously. His tag reads, Caleb. He's muttering something, voice low, urgent. You gotta say something, Lila. This can't keep going. Lila shakes her head, barely moving. You don't get it, Caleb, she whispers, her voice breaking. If I open my mouth, I'm done. My kid needs me to keep this job. Caleb starts to argue, but she cuts him off. He's got eyes everywhere. Her words hang heavy, like they're naming a shadow neither of them wants to face. Tony steps back, just out of sight, his shadow barely brushing the wall. His hand still in his pocket, fingers curled around that faded red bandana. He's heard this before, not the words, but the fear, the kind that chokes you quiet, makes you smaller every day. His breath slows, eyes narrowing like he's piecing together a puzzle. This isn't just a bad shift or a rough night. Something's rotting in his house, and he's starting to smell it. He slips back into the dining room, the twang of a steel guitar hitting him like a wave. Everything looks normal, folks digging into pulled pork, clinking beer bottles, laughing over stories. But Tony's not buying the act. His eyes cut to the bar where a man in a crisp black shirt stands, arms crossed, watching the floor like a hawk. Hair slicked back, smile too perfect, like he's selling something. His name tag says Mitch Tanner, manager. He's not just running the show, he's controlling it, his gaze locking on servers like they're pieces on a board. Tony knows the type, the ones who smile while they twist the knife. He slides onto a bar stool, the wood creaking under him. The bartender, a kid named Jasper, spins around, all nervous energy. "What can I get you?" he asks, wiping a glass. "Just water," Tony says, voice low. Jasper nods and scurries off. But Tony's not here for a drink. He's watching Mitch, catching how Caleb stiffens when Mitch's eyes land on him, how Lila's shoulders hunch when she passes by, forcing a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. It's like they're all walking on glass, waiting for it to crack. Tony leans back, his mind racing. That bandana in his pocket feels heavier now, a reminder of someone he loved, someone who stayed quiet too long. He built the Ember Grill to be different, a place where people could breathe easy, not choke on fear. But promises don't hold up if you stop fighting for them. Ever worked somewhere that felt like a trap, where you were scared to speak up? Tell me about it in the comments. I want to hear your stories. The weight of silence. The air in the Ember Grill hums with the clatter of plates and the soft strum of a guitar. But Tony Stark's world has narrowed to a single point. He's still at the bar, water untouched, eyes locked on the dining room like he's mapping a minefield. Lila's out there now, weaving through tables with a tray of mason jars filled with iced tea. Her smile's tight, practiced, like she's holding up a mask. Every time she passes near Mitch Tanner, the manager, her steps falter. Just for a second. It's subtle, but Tony sees it. He sees everything. He shifts on the bar stool, the red bandana in his pocket brushing against his fingers. That cloth, it's not just a keepsake. It belonged to his Aunt Rosie, the woman who raised him after his folks were gone. She worked dives like this, slinging burgers and greasy spoons, smiling through men who thought power gave them a free pass. She never spoke up, never got the chance to. Tony was too young to help her then, but he's not a kid anymore, and he's not leaving until he knows what's breaking Lila. Tony stands, casual, like he's just stretching his legs, and drifts toward a server station where Caleb's stacking napkins, his hands moving too fast like he's trying to outrun his own thoughts. Tony leans in, voice low, steady. "Hey, you got a second?" Caleb jumps, nearly dropping a stack, then forces a nod. "Yeah, sure, man." His eyes dart toward Mitch, who's chatting up a table but still scanning the room like a predator. Tony doesn't waste time. "Lila," he says, keeping it quiet. "She's scared. What's going on?" Caleb's face tightens, and for a second it looks like he'll bolt. But Tony's gaze holds him, calm but unyielding, like he's saying, "I'm not the one you're afraid of." Caleb swallows, voice barely a whisper. "It's Mitch. He's got this way of making you feel like you owe him. Keeps her late, says it's for extra training or some crap. But it's just them, alone." His words crack, anger and guilt tangled together. "She's got a little girl, man. She can't lose this job." Tony's jaw clenches, but he doesn't flinch. He's heard this story before, in different voices, different places. Men like Mitch don't just take power, they feed on it, wrapping their control in paperwork and smiles. He nods at Caleb, slow, deliberate. "Thanks for telling me." Caleb hesitates, then mutters, "Don't say I said anything, please." Tony just gives him a look, the kind that says, "You're safe with me." He heads toward the back, slipping out a side door to the alley behind the Ember Grill. The Nashville night is cool, the air sharp with the smell of smoke and asphalt. A single streetlight buzzes overhead, casting shadows on the brick wall. Jasper, the bartender, is out here, leaning against a dumpster, scrolling on his phone. He looks up, startled, as Tony steps into the light. "Long night?" Tony asks, keeping it easy, like they're just two guys shooting the breeze. Jasper shrugs, but his eyes are tired, older than his years. Always is. Tony leans against the wall, arms crossed, and lets the silence settle. Then, soft but direct, "What's Mitch like to work for?" Jasper freezes, just for a second, and that's all Tony needs. The truth's in the pause, not the words. "He's tough," Jasper says, picking his words like he's stepping over broken glass. "Keeps things tight, too tight." He glances at the door, voice dropping. "Lila's the one who gets it worst. He's always on her, making her stay after close. Says it's for inventory, but..." He trails off, shaking his head. "She don't say nothing, but you can see it. She's scared." Tony's hand tightens around the bandana in his pocket, Rosie's face flashing in his mind. He built this place to be a haven, not a cage. "She ever tell anyone?" he asks, already knowing the answer. Jasper shakes his head. "Who's she gonna tell? Mitch runs everything. We just keep our heads down." Tony looks out at the alley, the moonlight glinting off a puddle. "Not anymore," he says, more to himself than Jasper. "What would you do if you saw someone stuck like Lila, too scared to speak? Ever been in a spot where you felt trapped? Share your story in the comments. It matters." A spark in the storm. The dining room at the Ember Grill is a blur of motion. Waiters dodging tables, glasses clinking, a fiddle player tearing through a lively tune. But Tony Stark's world is dead quiet, like the calm before a storm. He's back inside, leaning against a wooden beam near the bar, his eyes tracking Lila as she sets down a plate of smoked ribs. Her hands don't shake, but her smile's hollow, like she's running on fumes. Every few seconds, her gaze flicks toward Mitch Tanner, who's stationed near the front, his slick smile fooling everyone but Tony. The man's a snake, coiled and waiting, and Tony's done watching. His fingers brush the red bandana in his pocket, the one that belonged to his Aunt Rosie. Her memory burns in his chest, a woman who poured her life into places like this, only to be crushed by men who thought they owned her silence. Tony built the Ember Grill to break that cycle, to give people a place where they could stand tall. But right now, it's failing Lila, and that failure feels like a blade in his gut. He moves, slow but deliberate, cutting through the crowd like he's invisible. He finds Lila near the drink station, refilling a pitcher of sweet tea. She doesn't see him at first, her focus locked on the task, but when he steps closer, she startles, nearly dropping the pitcher. "Sorry, sir," she says, voice automatic, eyes barely meeting his. Tony keeps his tone soft, steady, like he's talking to someone caught in a riptide. "Lila, I need a minute, just you and me." Her face tightens, a flicker of panic crossing her eyes. "I'm working, sir. I can't." She glances toward Mitch, who's now laughing with a customer but still watching the floor. Tony steps just enough to block her view of him. "This won't take long," he says, his voice carrying a weight that makes her pause. Something in his eyes, calm, unyielding, makes her nod just once. She follows him a few steps to a quiet corner near the jukebox where the music muffles their words. "Lila," Tony says, keeping his voice low, "I know what's happening. I saw you in the back. I heard enough." Her breath catches, and she shakes her head, fast, like she's trying to outrun the truth. "You don't understand," she whispers. "I can't say anything. My daughter, she's 4. I'm all she's got." Her voice cracks, and Tony feels it like a punch. He leans in just a fraction, his words steady but fierce. "You're not alone anymore. Not in this." Lila's eyes widen like she's been slapped by hope she doesn't trust. She opens her mouth, but before she can speak, a shadow moves behind them. Mitch Tanner steps into view, his smile sharp as a razor. "Everything okay here?" he asks, voice smooth but laced with something colder. Lila freezes, her hands twisting the hem of her apron. Tony doesn't turn right away. He holds Lila's gaze for a beat, letting her see he's not backing down. Then slow, he faces Mitch. "Just talking," Tony says, his tone flat but heavy. like a storm cloud rolling in. Mitch's smile doesn't budge, but his eyes narrow, sizing Tony up. Lila's got tables to cover, he says, the words polite but edged with control. No time for chats. Tony squares his shoulders, and the air shifts like the room's holding its breath. Up close, Mitch's confidence wavers, just a flicker, but Tony catches it. He doesn't blink. She'll be back in a minute, he says, and it's not a request. Mitch hesitates, then forces a laugh, stepping back. Sure thing, pal. He walks off, but his glance at Lila lingers, a warning wrapped in a grin. Lila's shaking now, her voice barely a whisper. He'll make it worse, she says. Tony looks at her, his face carved with resolve. Not if I'm here, he says, and those words feel like a vow. Have you ever had to stand up to someone like Mitch, knowing it could cost you? What happened? Drop it in the comments. I'm listening. Truth in the light, the hum of the Ember Grill feels distant now, like a radio turned low. Tony Stark stands in the dim corner near the jukebox, Lila's trembling words still echoing in his head. He'll make it worse. Her eyes, wide with fear for her little girl, cut deeper than anything Tony's faced in years. He's back at the bar, but he's not sitting anymore. His hands rest on the worn wood, fingers brushing the red bandana in his pocket. Rosie's bandana, a reminder of the woman he couldn't save. But Lila's still here, and Tony's not letting her slip through the cracks. Across the room, Mitch Tanner's holding court near the front, flashing that slick smile to a table of regulars. But Tony sees the truth in the way his eyes dart, always landing on Lila as she clears plates, her movements stiff like she's bracing for a hit. The dining room's alive, folks laughing, a steel guitar wailing. But it's all a mask. Tony's done with masks. He built this place to be a home, not a prison, and Mitch is poisoning it. He moves, cutting through the crowd with purpose, his leather jacket brushing against a chair. The manager's office is down a short hall, past a wall of signed guitar picks from Nashville stars. Tony doesn't knock. The door creaks open, and Mitch looks up from his desk, a stack of schedules in front of him. His smile's there, but it's thin, like he knows the game's shifting. Can I help you? He asks, leaning back, all casual control. Tony doesn't sit. He stands, shoulders square, filling the small room with a presence that makes the air feel heavy. You're done here, he says, voice low, like gravel under boots. Mitch blinks, laugh caught in his throat. Excuse me? Tony steps closer, slow, deliberate. You think you own her. Lila, you keep her late, make her feel like she's got no way out. You're not just a bad manager, Mitch. You're a coward. Mitch's face hardens, but there's a crack in his cool, a twitch in his jaw. You don't know what you're talking about, he says, standing now, trying to match Tony's height. She's fine, just needs extra training. Tony pulls his phone from his pocket, slow, and taps the screen. Lila's voice spills out, soft, shaking. If I don't do what he says, I'm gone. Then Caleb's. You can't let him. The recording stops, and the silence is louder than the music outside. Mitch pales, hands gripping the desk. You can't record people like that, he stammers, reaching for anger but finding fear. Tony slides the phone back into his pocket. I didn't record, he says, eyes locked on Mitch. I listened. Something you never did. He leans in, voice dropping to a near whisper. She's got a kid, bills, dreams, and you use that to trap her. Just like someone did to my aunt years ago. She didn't make it out. Lila will. Mitch's mouth opens, but nothing comes. Tony pulls out the bandana, holding it like it's a piece of his soul. This was hers, he says, voice catching just enough to feel human. I carry it so I don't forget what happens when people like you think they're untouchable. He tucks it away, then opens his phone again, thumb hovering over a contact labeled corporate. One call and you're not just fired. You're erased from every restaurant in Tennessee. Mitch sinks into his chair, the fight draining out of him. What do you want? He mutters, voice small. Tony's eyes don't waver. You're going to stand in front of the staff. You're going to tell them what you did, how you made Lila feel small, how you twisted your power. The truth, or I make that call, and you're done for good. Mitch's hands shake, but he nods barely. Okay, he whispers. I'll do it. Tony steps back, opening the door. The hallway's alive with kitchen noise, but inside it's just the two of them and the weight of what's coming. Go, Tony says, and Mitch rises, slow, like a man walking to his own grave. What would it take for you to face someone like Mitch head on? Ever had a moment where you had to choose between silence or speaking up? Tell me in the comments, I'm all ears. Breaking the chains. The air at the Ember Grill is thick, like a storm's past. Mitch Tanner stands by the time card station, his slick smile gone, shirt wilted. Lila's tense by the bar, arms crossed. Caleb leans on a booth, jaw tight. Jasper grips a glass. Tony Stark watches from the shadows, letting truth lead. Mitch's voice cracks. I messed up bad. I hurt Lila, used my power to keep her quiet. I'm wrong, I'm gone. He grabs his coat and the door thuds shut. Silence falls heavy. Caleb exhales, Jasper nods. Lila's hands unclench, her eyes soft with relief. Tony steps forward, voice steady. That weight's gone. This place is yours. Lila hands him a worn resignation letter, dated months back. He tears it in half. You're free. Holding Rosie's red bandana, he says, my aunt faced this. Nobody helped. Speak up. I'll listen. Ever seen a workplace turn around? Share your story in the comments. A promise kept. The Ember Grill's lights dim. A country tune fades. Lila's apron's off, a shy smile free. Caleb and Jasper laugh, light. Tony's by the host stand, Rosie's red bandana over Mitch's nameplate. Lila, you're safe, he says. She gives a music note keychain. For my girl's luck. In his Nashville pickup, Tony sees Lila laugh, free with Caleb. Bandana by keychain, Rosie's silence haunts. Lila's fight heals. Promises live in doing. Who fought for you? Share in the comments. If this hit home, subscribe.